Today, we're thrilled to speak with Kim Simmonds, a legal expert from Cloud Contracts 365, about our exciting new partnership. Together, WeTransact and Cloud Contracts 365 are creating a powerful synergy to help companies list securely and confidently on the Microsoft Marketplace. At WeTransact, we know how critical it is to have secure and cloud-specific T's and C's. Currently, we see many companies default to using their general contracts or Microsoft's terms and conditions, which might not fully address their unique needs. That's where Cloud Contracts 365 comes in, offering tailored solutions designed specifically for cloud-based agreements. We're going to deep dive into why cloud-specific terms are so important, how our customers can be leveraging this new partnership, and what businesses need to know to get ahead. Kim, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Kajol. Thank you so much for inviting me along as well. I'm really excited to talk to you today.
Lovely. Let's jump into it. So our first question for you is, why is it important for companies to move away from generic or default terms and conditions when listing on the Microsoft Marketplace?
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually, because a lot of people I know on the Microsoft Marketplace in particular, but just in general, the internet, I can build it from ChatGPT, or I've got, using my friend's terms and conditions that seem to be fine for 20 years for his business, And the problem with that is every business is in some ways quite unique. Now, I know a lot of tech businesses will say, well, I'm kind of doing the same thing as that tech business, so we're not that unique. We might say we're unique, but we're not. But actually they are. Services, how they're selling their IP, what things they're really interested in protecting, but also how they build the relationship with the customer. And they are very different. Those blueprints are so materially different to one another that actually using generic templates or standardized templates that are coming from a company that doesn't understand that particularly well means that you're sort of cutting your nose to spite your face. You don't have the right terms to protect your business. And let's just be clear that contracts serve two mechanisms. One, which is to enable to manage your risk, because that's what the contract spells out, is what happens in this scenario. This is what we do. So we're managing our risk. We know exactly what we're doing and we're limiting it. So we're saying that's all we will deliver. But it does a second thing, which is it also helps businesses grow and thrive. Because when you set the right parameters of how you're doing business with a customer, then essentially you know how you're supposed to do business with them, and they know how you're doing business, and therefore that revenue comes in. Everyone knows what they're doing, and there's no dispute, and you're getting from one customer to the other, to the other, to the other, knowing that this is marrying up to your processes and the way you do business out there. So it can be a real growth mechanism as well.
Wow. Okay, that is super insightful. Awesome. Okay. We'll move on to the next question. So what are the most common oversights or risks that companies face when they don't have cloud-specific terms and conditions?
Yeah, I love this question because it really kind of starts to open the eyes of everyone who thinks that general contracts or generic contracts out there are the way forward. So the things that you've got to really be careful of is those generic contracts don't know what your IP position is. So they might give away your IP. Okay, so if you're building something like a SaaS related product, or you're building, a software product, or you're building something for your customer that actually you want to kind of own because you want to resell it to other customers, then you really need to figure out what that IP position is, because that's your valuation in the business. If you go to exit your business and you haven't got watertight IP clauses that support that position of your valuation, then you're all of a sudden doing your valuation a disservice. And you're also confusing the client as to where the IP belongs and where it sits, where the license rights sit, what happens with those licenses. Everyone has, if you're looking at a SaaS product, everyone has a different license right. Everyone has different qualifications of when you can revoke that license. Not every business is going to be the same. So just taking that one issue of IP license rights, you're looking at the difference there, the massive gulf of differences between generic stuff out there that may not be the most suitable position for you. Another thing is, and I know on the Microsoft terms, the limitation of liability is quite restrictive, which is, you might say that sounds great, like I don't have to give away too much. But the problem is especially under the English court system, if you're too punitive, you're not giving too much away, and you're not balancing it with risk and reward, your customer could overthrow that cap and say it's too small. So again, it's making sure it's balanced against what you're actually delivering for the customer, what the value is looking like, and what's the sort of industry standard across that. So when you're looking at generic templates, you have got to understand that they don't know where your risk areas are. They don't know how you do your business. They don't know what things you might come up against and what services you're actually delivering. So you're running the risk of having a contract that doesn't fit anything,
Okay. Very clear. Now I'd like to talk a little bit more about cloud contracts specifically. So Kim, can you explain how cloud contracts makes it easier for companies to create tailored terms and conditions for their cloud offering?
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe it just helps to just quickly give you a bit of background as to why I kind of created this. So my background is that I'm a lawyer. I've been a lawyer for 20 years. And I've been in this space for 15 years. And one of the things that I saw is that a lot of Microsoft partners, a lot of MSPs, IT services, they need these bespoke, specific contracts that are fit for purpose because their industry is not the same as aviation or pharmacy or generic terms out there that might apply to different industries. So ultimately, and I've got a law firm called Law 365, there are lots of clients coming to us, but we were quite cost prohibitive, quite honestly, because obviously we're lawyers, we do command a higher fee. It is the way of law firms, but not everyone can afford them. So I thought, well, we can automate a lot of this stuff. This is easy to automate and get right and actually provide a low cost option for those businesses that are not prepared to pay $5,000 to get a master services agreement. So our product is designed with that in mind, and it's super easy to use. You go in it, it's self-serve, you sign up on the internet, it's all done. You can do a free trial as well. And you build your contract from very clear questions, and we have industry standards as defaults as the answers. So if you don't even know how to answer the question, we tell you the industry tends to answer it this way. So you're really kind of being led in the right way as to how to formulate those terms, and then you're protected.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. So let's move on to the final question then, which is, how does Cloud Contracts 365 ensure the best security and compliance cloud-based agreements?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're looking at contracts, you're definitely looking at an instrument that can help you mitigate and manage your risk. It's not going to completely eliminate your risk, because at the end of the day, you can't do that. You can't say you're going to buy my service and I've got absolutely no responsibility to you whatsoever. That's very unrealistic. So the contract has to balance between the risk of what you're delivering and the stop and start position, if you like, on that risk. So where do we have the responsibility and where does our responsibility stop? Okay, and that's really important. So from a security and compliance point of view, looking at security, your loss of data, that could actually happen, right? You could actually lose people's data, but the contract terms has to specify what happens in the event that you lose the data. Do you exclude your liability for that, which means do you exclude your risk entirely for that? Do you give a little bit of risk on that? Well, we're going to do backup services, or we're not going to do backup services. Whatever that challenge is, the contract serves to do that. And for us, the way we look at the contracts that we've designed in the platform is to balance that. For example, backup is not included unless they pay for that as a specific service. Data loss is not our problem unless we were a direct cause of that data loss. In that case, we have a cap. The most that we're going to pay you for that is this. And looking at that in light of legislation as well. So when you go to data protection, obviously we're heavily legislated around data protection. We have the right clauses in place to protect the business. We have, the right set of terms to protect any issue with data protection. Those things are really, really important. Anti-bribery clauses, modern slavery clauses, these are things that you need and require as a business to have in your contract terms. So all of that kind of supports the security issues and compliance risks of a lot of the businesses that we know of.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your insight and your experience.
Thank you so much. It's so lovely to be able to do this in conjunction with you guys. And, my passion has always been protecting these businesses and helping them navigate the complexity of law in a cost-efficient way, because I know not everyone can afford lawyers. And my whole thing with this platform is how to democratize legal. because legal is one of these things, like medicine, that feels like only the elite can access in full work, and I'm really against that. I believe that this is a service to the world, and it needs to be a cost-efficient tool for people. So that's kind of my passion. That's my raison d'etre of why I built what I did, and I really hope that people can get great value out of it.
Us too, on the WeTransact side. So thank you so much again.
Thank you, Kajol. Thank you.